Welcome to Tinker Tailor Gamer Scribe, and welcome to another installment of Finding Your Creative Outlet. This series is designed to introduce different ways to create and express through primers of basic information to get you started in various creative and expressive topics. This episode is about writing. Writing is a very broad subject, so broad I'm not going to try and cover it all in this one primer. What I will do is cover the most general aspects of writing as a whole. I figure the best way is to split it into three general categories: storytelling, technical writing, and other. I know they don't sound like the most scientific groupings, but I think it will make the most sense to someone that might be new to the idea of writing as a pursuit. Storytelling is described as the social and cultural activity of sharing stories, sometimes with improvisation, theatrics, or embellishment. Storytelling is probably the most familiar form of writing to most people. Fantasy, sci-fi, murder mysteries, biographies are all examples that fit in this category. Of course, there are many other types as well. Language and communication are built on the ability to tell stories. It's how we share past events and information with each other. Most forms of entertainment either tell a story or are events that stories are told about. Often, they are both. There is no formal format to writing a story, but there are frameworks that are used often to keep a story cohesive. I won't be going into a ton of detail here, but I will provide links that will flesh these descriptions out. Perspective. Who is telling the story to the reader? Is it the character in the story itself, or first-person perspective? Or is the narrator an all-seeing, all-knowing figure watching everything happen from above, or third-person perspective? Tense. When is the story happening? In the past, right now, or has it yet to happen? Plot. What is the basic scope of the story? There are 7 basic plots that most stories fit into. Is the story a tragedy, or a comedy, or something else? The 6 W's. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. I'm kind of cheating by lumping them all together like this. Each of them is an important question a prospective author must ask. Who is this story about? What is their motivation? When does the story take place? And so on. Writing a story can allow an author a great amount of stylistic freedom. Because of this, the author is able to tell their story their own way. It is this freedom that gives this category its appeal. I would say there are 2 important things to remember when writing a story. First, be mindful of the audience you're targeting your story at. If you're writing a children's book, try not to use vocabulary that your reader is not likely to learn till college. Conversely, if you're writing a psychological horror novel for a mature age group, a wider range of vocabulary is very useful. And second, don't lose track of the story's perspective and tense. This is a problem I have myself. I constantly go back and forth between present and past tense when I write. Then I have to go back and rewrite so it all matches up. It has been said that everyone has a story to tell. Everyone is a writer. Some are written in the books, and some are confined to hearts. I personally could not agree more. Technical writing is the realm of textbooks, instruction manuals, and school essays. Other types include screenplays, press releases, and science or medical papers. Where storytelling is more free-form, technical writing is fairly regimented. Take an essay, for example. Essays consist of an introduction paragraph where you state the topic of the paper, the body where each paragraph is a specific point you wish to convey about the topic, and the conclusion where you bring all of your points together to confirm or deny the topic. If a teacher or employer asks you to write a report on a specific topic, they are likely expecting an essay. When I write my voiceover for this series, I'm writing an essay. The core of technical writing is that there is a format to whatever type of technical writing you're doing. Essays follow the format I just described, screenplays have their own format, as do instruction manuals, etc. You might not realize it, but we have examples of technical writing around us all the time, and we experience them every day. Every news report you watch or read is an example of technical writing. Reading the instructions for your latest gadget or piece of needs assembly furniture, that how-to guide you read when you were thinking about replacing the broken screen on your phone, they are also technical writing. This may not seem like a very exciting form of writing, but the opportunity for learning is huge. Most technical writing is dependent on impeccable fact-checking and research. If you think about it, pretty much every non-instinctual skill we have as humans, and most of the information we receive, comes from, or with the aid of, technical writing. Given the other two categories, this one is really big, but I will try to simplify it as much as I can. Basically, this category is for types of writing that fit either both or neither of the other categories I covered. Things like poetry and stream of consciousness writing are perfect candidates for this category. Poetry is a form of writing that can be a combination of storytelling and technical writing. It can also be one and not the other, or neither for that matter. When most people think of the word poetry, they think about rhyming verses like a song. That is poetry for sure, metered rhyme that tells a story or conveys an idea. In this example, each line has the same number of syllables and ends in a word that rhymes with the other. Other forms of poetry, like haiku, have a format but no other restrictions. These are some of the easier forms of metered poetry. If you want to see how complicated it can get, I will leave a link for Iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter is the meter that Shakespeare used for much of his writing. Free verse poetry, on the other hand, has no format or required anything. It doesn't have to rhyme or have meter at all. This is the definition for free verse. Stream of consciousness writing is even less restricted. It is not uncommon for this kind of writing to lack basic sentence structure and punctuation. Literally, all you need to do is write what you are thinking as it comes. It can be random or topic focused. It's up to the writer's mind. Since you are watching this video, it stands to reason that you already have everything you need to get started writing. You can write or dictate into most portable devices, and of course computers are perfect for writing digitally. I will include some links below to a couple of powerful text editing programs. Then of course there's always old-fashioned pen and paper. When you have your writing tool of choice in front of you, it's just a matter of putting down words. If you are finding difficulty with the words part, start simple. Once upon a time is a legitimate way to start a story. Or just pick random words and find a rhyming word for it if you're trying poetry. My personal exercise is getting out of my normal element and seeing what strikes me. Find a question that I need to know the answer to. I'm sure there are a million other things out there on the internet that can help you find your writing motivation. It is not going too far to say that writing is what makes our world function, both figuratively and literally. How we record our history, how we learn to use devices, how we express our thoughts and feelings, how we find out what's going on in the world around us, is the written word. Writing is the thing I do best. That's not to say I'm particularly good at it. In fact, if it weren't for spell check and grammar check, my writing would be very nearly shameful. But even if the words are spelled wrong, and I use a colon where I should have used a period, I have ideas, stories to tell, and I will try to write down as many of them as I am able, even if I never develop them into something more. If I were to give one piece of advice about writing, it would be this. All successful writers have a thick skin. Their writing has been criticized, graded, liked and hated, panned and praised. Good or bad, they use that criticism to improve, and most importantly, to drive them on. We have writing and writers to thank for our entertainment, our education, and, if you're like me, our ability to express ourselves. Writing is one of the best ways for a person to harness their imagination and knowledge and share it with others. Well, that's all for this installment of Finding Your Creative Outlet. There will be a bunch of links below that may be useful if you are considering writing as your creative outlet, and those are just a small fraction of the resources that are out there. This might sound a bit obvious, but remember that everything you read is an example of writing, so there is no lack of reference material available to you. Until next time.